Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. I hope you're all well. Had a wonderful week. Enjoying the summer. It's a pleasure, as always, to be with you. So maybe if we take a moment to center ourselves. Today we're going to work on prayer and a practice to do as we go to sleep every night. So let's take a moment to sort of breathe, wake up. If it's 7 a.m. for certain people, or maybe 11 p.m. for other people, let's close our eyes. Make sure our back is straight. Take a deep breath through the nostrils, nice and easy. Feel the air expand the lungs, nice and full. And as we exhale, either through the nose or through the mouth, whichever you feel to, you just feel any tension or any worries just leave through the breath. We're exhaling and just any tension, anything just leave. So we feel a little calmer. We feel like we could realign our body a little bit, and you find a spot that feels centered and calm. We sort of reconnect with the core of ourselves. We center the mind this way. We can regain presence this way, our presence, our awareness, which is always anchored in the present moment. We are not present in the future, and we're not present in the past, even though in the present moment we may have thoughts of the future or dreams of the future, or we could have flashbacks on the past or thoughts of the past, but they occur in the present moment. Right? So it's almost like we're watching a movie. And the movie is of the future or of the past, but in the present, we're in the theater watching a screen. And we get lost in our stories. It is important to think of the past. It is important to think of the future. Sometimes we have memories of the past that we need to clear, and we work on that. But we learn to do it mindfully while being present and not lost in it. So as we sit here this morning to center ourselves in this gorgeous, cool morning in California, before it hits to 100 degrees and becomes a little bit unbearable, we appreciate the cool air. We appreciate the birds. We appreciate the calmness in our house before a day. And so as we inhale and exhale, we become present to what's occurring right now. And the beauty of the life that is right now. So let's take a moment. Sometimes as you exhale, you feel the back change position and you realize where you thought was centered actually kind of wasn't. It was centered where there was a lot of tension. And as you relax and the tension leaves, you feel the back actually move to a different position. Your hands move to a different position. And with practice, you find your mind, the energy in your brain just slows and stops. And that's the sweet spot. We enter a zone that's aligned, fresh, present, new. The present is always fresh and actually calm. And as we learn to live from that place, we can experience that even in the midst of the turmoil, the stress that's around us, that would normally trigger us and we would feel it. But because we learn to anchor in presence, it's a whirlwind around us, but we're the calm mountain that lives in the midst of it and doesn't get caught up from hope and fear and desire or repulsion in the sense, I don't want this, I wish this weren't happening, a sort of resistance to what's going on. When we have an unconditional openness, these are Eastern teachings, to what's occurring, because honestly, logically, we can't do anything with what's occurring in the present moment, but experience it, right? Because even if we act on it, that's a present moment as well in the future, do you see? So as being in the present, we can learn to live in that freshness throughout our lives. And it doesn't mean that we're okay with it. It doesn't mean that it's all free and light and good and blissed and whatever. It can be horrific. But we become more of an observer. We see it. With the presence of mind, we learn how to engage with it skillfully without being triggered. And we learn to act and react. And as we connect with God, we have that connection to guide us and to lead us and provide a subtle wisdom that transcends what might be the limits of our knowing. We begin to know and see in deeper ways. And as we align deeper and deeper and connect deeper and deeper to that divine Wi-Fi, that divine signal, we become more and more a divine presence here on this earth. And we could engender change in deeper, more skillful ways. And so here, this beautiful morning, we are learning. These are stages of fruition, mind you, okay? So when you can live that 24/7 and be in that presence, that's a very high level. So you go into it, you pop out of it, you learn to stay longer. Life might get really hard and you pop out for a while, but you've developed skills to pop in and pop out as necessary. So it's something one works towards, so don't feel bad you can't stay there. Currently, I don't live there 24/7. Alright? So, partly there's a lot going on, and partly is a choice. Because I feel I could teach better with feeling and going through these things, so I can give better guidance from the perspective of where to go and the perspective of sort of being in the soup with the waves. So let's be in the presence. If you have your shrine prayer space in front of you, I hope the candle is lit. If not, do it mindfully. You are lighting a candle. That's all you're doing. Mindfully, you pick up the lighter. Mindfully, you light the light. With a still mind, you call in God to infuse the light with His presence. The divine presence in the flame, present, alive. In many traditions, a flame is considered to be the most alive of all the elements. And then you feel that presence of divine, of Yahweh, of Hashem, Adonai, Elohim, the name you use. And then you offer an incense and slightly bow to God in devotion, in appreciation, in submission to Him. We submit to His guidance. We submit our ego to His energy, to His Wi-Fi, so we may be receptive, and bowl that is ever emptier and emptier. So we have room for Him to enter and show us a new way of being. Very important to bow and release in submission to God. The world is out of alignment because we run with it. We're out of alignment with the purity and the balance that's necessary. And God is the embodiment of purity and balance and the proper order of things. It doesn't mean He's a dictator. Do you understand? Out of friendship, out of love, He guides us back to wholeness. The wholeness that was in Eden, the perfection before the fall, the desires of our hearts of love, compassion, unconditional holding and love of us, of the lack of need, shelter or food or clothes, and living in bliss, in beauty, of full wholeness in the bounty that surrounds us. And we submit to His guidance and wisdom for our lives, that our lives may be guided by Him. Ultimately, a very good prayer of devotion is to say, may my will be your will. May I live how you wish me to live. May I do what you would like me to do. May you guide my life so I can be a servant to you, to how that you can use me, that I am available to you, not my desires, but your guidance. And of course, in love, we can ask for things we would like, but it's always according to His will. Do you see? It's not the Wi-Fi of our desires or wishes, of whatever we wish, to live however we want, to do whatever we want, and not caring how it affects others in our world. This is an opening to God, that we may stay on His path, that He may guide the road we're on, and how we walk that road, that it's the road He wishes, the plan that He has for us. So this is in a way a returning to older ways, where our entire life is a spiritual walk with God, hand in hand. And that's the connection we seek. And I know that many people seek it here very dearly. And that's a beautiful thing. And I gotta believe that God honors that. So you've lit your flame. The incense is rising. Call in God again to be present. See the presence. See if you could feel it. Say it out loud, God, or Emmanuel, or Hashem, or Adonai. Please enter my space. Be around me and in me. May I feel your presence. And then relax your presence and look at the incense and the flame. Calmness. And as you open in presence, see if the direction of the incense starts going more upwards, straight. So let's be in the presence for a couple moments as we bask, as we bathe in the divine. This is the path of devotion of the heart. So we're opening our hearts to Him. The Wi-Fi eventually connects with our hearts and our minds and our bodies. But the connection is the most fastest way is to call with our hearts our longing, our desire, our calling out, Adonai, please come to me. Adonai, please connect with me. Adonai, please guide me. Adonai, please help me live a good life. Adonai, I love you. These are very, very powerful prayers. And the wisdom is the divine wisdom. It's the divine wisdom that we follow, the divine guidance, which we have the choice to obey or choose something else. But it's always whole and grounded and sane. It's that inner voice that we all have, which we begin to learn to listen to and develop confidence that it's accurate with time, that it's not a figment of our mind or our subconscious, but we realize it's something more, something greater. And in the presence and in the silence of a quiet mind, it fills us and we feel the pull of what we ought to do or how we should live. But beyond that, we begin to feel that we're not walking alone. We feel more whole. We feel a divine light and presence in us, in our aura. We begin to feel connected to God. Our prayers feel fuller. We begin to see that they're not one way, but there's something coming back from our prayers. And it takes time, or it happens quickly. But the love we have means we continue even if we may not feel anything. Because we have commitment. So I found a beautiful prayer of devotion. It's a little brief, but I hope it fills us and gives us a little bit of an idea of deep religious devotion, and it comes through in how this person sings it, because he's singing from his reality, and it nurtures us, and it contains great blessing.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לך שכלי בינה, להבחין בין יום ובין לילה.
Who has given me the ability to distinguish day from night.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, פוקח עיוורים.
Who opens the eyes of the blind.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, מתיר אסורים.
Who frees the captive.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, זוקף כפופים.
Who lifts up the fallen.
176.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, ברוקה ארץ על המים.
Who stretches the earth over the water.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המכין מצעדי גבר.
Who strengthens our steps.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, מלביש ערומים.
Clothes the naked.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, הנותן ליעף כוח.
Gives strength to the weak.
So that's an example of a prayer of devotion. I will post the words. There's about another 15 stanzas to it on my website in a new download section. And it's something beautiful to recite because they're beautiful prayers of appreciation to God. One of this references Judaism, so you could fill in your religion. It says thankful to be Jewish. You could put in instead your religion. And when it says the word Israel, an older definition of the word Israel means all those who believe in God. So when it says strengthen Israel, a definition would mean all those who believe in God, may they be strengthened. So the prayer is very, very inclusive. And the devotion is really, really important. You don't need to say a lot of words in prayer. It's being in devotion. It's an outstretched heart that we have towards God. That's our hand being outstretched. It's actually our heart being outstretched. By outstretching our hearts, that's outstretching our hand. It's the connection to God is done through devotion and love. And God's outstretched hand is His love for us and his devotion to his children. And a manifestation of our devotion to God are our actions, our speech, our kindness, our compassion, because these are the things of God, the things of our alignment, the demonstration, our actions, our manifestation that is in alignment with our hearts of devotion. And God is there for us. And that's the manifestation of his love and devotion and his caring. My dear friends, we are walking the path of the heart, of love, of devotion. So, when we go to sleep at night, there's a very, very profound practice in the East on which I'm adapting, of course, where we can, in the way I'm adapting it, put our hands into God's keeping, where we intentionally hand over our energy to God's Wi-Fi, to God's connection, where we slow down and we don't just go to sleep with our racing thoughts, but we take a couple breaths, a line, and we go to sleep with God on our minds. And we do this by softly saying a name that brings us calm and peace and where we feel held. It could be the name we're currently saying, but if that name has other attributes, which are quite good, right? But they don't bring you necessarily calm and peace, which is fine. That's when you go looking for another of the names that has that attribute of holding and healing. All the names have all the attributes, but they manifest according to what we need at that moment. But there are other names that may have different attributes that we need as well. And this is how we learn to work with different names. And then we just simply go through the list. They're on the website, all 8 of them. And we say each one slowly, and we feel in our bodies, how do we react to this? And then we find the one that has that sweet spot for this particular practice. It's just different channels to God. Some may bring more wisdom. Some may bring more spaciousness. Like for me, Abba is very relaxing and very spacious. That name puts me in presence very quickly. Actually, saying out loud is, I think, this is now something I should say throughout the day when I'm maybe more off balance. And there are names where you can be more pensive, or there's more wisdom, or it provides more clearing, so you can clean that bowl and have more receptivity because you have more bandwidth that's open, because you've cleared out your bowl of your past a little more using that name. There's names that provide healing and calm. That feels like it's that warm blanket or the embrace of someone you love. And when you go to sleep, you want a name that is conducive to falling asleep, where you feel that holding. And if no name provides that, you find with your instincts which name do you think, just by the sound of it or the way it looks, the one that you feel has those qualities. And then you use that name. And you develop, or you learn to develop, the qualities of that name that has what you need in it. And lo and behold, with time, that name will manifest those qualities. And so we get into a comfortable position, and it's your sleep position. Just whatever position you normally use to get asleep, with the same pillow, on your back, on your side, on your stomach, your legs, in whatever position feel comfortable to you. Just make sure your spine isn't twisted, that your neck isn't so far up that you feel that the energy from the spine doesn't go all the way up through the top of your head. So you don't want to have any sort of energetic kinks, but that doesn't mean that your head's not popped up. But it just can't be to the extreme that you feel there's a nick in your neck. And your arms can be in any position. And it's your normal mattress. Ultimately, you don't want it so soft that your body sort of, and your spine isn't just, you want a slight firmness, right? But even not, it really doesn't require anything. Because when we say the name, it just fills our whole body. We're not connecting from the outside. This practice is really from the inside. And as we say the name, so Yahweh is for me right now, so you just say it in your mind very softly and very gently. If you say it with too much focus and too intensely, you'll stay awake. So it's just very open and gentle, and you feel the vibration of it. And you feel it sort of fill your body. And it might take, just for the first maybe 20, 30 seconds, you try to feel it throughout your body, and then you let that go too, because that'll keep you awake. You just put your intent, and then you just let it go, and you say it in your mind just gently. So, for example, you could say it slightly out loud, but eventually by moving your lips, that might keep you awake too. So the thing is to say it mindfully, and you say it as you fall asleep. So, Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. You see, you don't say it in a way that you feel that energy amps you up. So if I would say too fast, I feel the energy amping, increasing in my body, and that will keep you awake. So it's basically saying the name, and it anchors your mind into the frequency of the name you're using. So it just could be Hashem, 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 Hashem. Oh, that's a really good one. I like that one. That's a good one. That's strong. I might try that tonight. See, it's all the same God, right? So it ultimately doesn't matter. That one's really strong. I'm definitely trying that tonight. But see, for someone else, that might not work. So you are connecting to the Wi-Fi of God as you go to sleep. It's an act of submission. It's an act of trust. It's an act of a desire to be in alignment with God as we sleep. We sleep at least a third of our day. Most people 7 to 8 hours, right? Some people 10. When I was younger, I slept 10 hours a night. I had needed to, else I didn't function well. Now it's more like 7. Sometimes it's 6. Sometimes it's 8. Right? So we let go. So God, when we're in that alpha state, when we're asleep, or theta state, we have a greater chance of retaining that connection as we sleep. And that connection is very whole and deeply healing. It's a divine frequency of medicine that heals our thoughts and our minds, our bodies. And as we develop this ability, we discover, at least that we wake up more refreshed. Our bodies feel deeply rested. Our minds and energies calmer. We realize we've had a deeper sleep. We may come to realize we don't need to sleep as long anymore and still have that same level of rest. That's a physical level. Mental, our thoughts and emotions are less disturbed. We become more present. We have less discursive thinking, less anger, less thoughts about the future or the past or daydreaming. Spiritual level. And this is the most profound part, I feel. We develop a connection to God in a very, very deeper way. Because as we sleep and as we develop this ability over months and weeks and go deeper and deeper levels over years and one's whole lifetime ultimately, we have that connection to God and we really, really develop it. It's a prayer that we can bring into our night. And even if we say it and then we go off and have our normal dreams, that's fine. It's part of the practice. We wake up in the middle of the night, we have to go to the bathroom, or we need some water, or we're normally tossing and turning, then mindfully we remember when we go back to sleep to say the name again. And we do that for a while. There's no pressure to attain anything, because that creates resistance and actually can delay any progress. It's always relaxed and easy. And with the course of time of doing this, our minds, our energy system begins to change. The energetic habits of our dreams and how our minds function, how our dreams present themselves, or if one doesn't remember dreams, how one ends up dreaming or not dreaming and not remembering it, changes. The current of the name begins to permeate our sleep. And sometimes in the middle of the night, we wake up and we're literally saying the name. And we weren't doing it consciously. Our mind was repeating it in our sleep. And that starts getting very profound. That means our subconscious mind was in alignment as we slept. And we remain connected. That healing energy of divinity, that connection, was maintained. And then with time, our dreams can change. We may become more present in our dreams. We may become more lucid in our dreams. We may receive wisdom through our dreams. We may see things differently. We may see things in our lives, but somehow we see it differently, how a different action may present a different outcome. And then when we wake up, we use our minds to make sure, yeah, that is possible. And then if it's not too important, we do it, and then we see the result. And then we get confidence that it's trustworthy. So you learn and you go carefully to grow in confidence that it's not, your subconscious mind and the results really messed up when your dream says it should be successful. Do you see? I'm very conservative, and we have to be mindful of our subconscious minds, because this is beyond the subconscious. But for me, I like to have comfort that it's something more than that. And you test it. You test your inclinations. You test what comes through your prayers. You test the alignment with time, and you grow in confidence. Like you're on the training wheel, you test your ability to ride the bike. And if I remember properly, when I was younger, I knew it was okay to remove the training wheels when I was going faster and I felt the training wheels weren't engaging to hold up the bike and I had my balance. And then I took them off, and then I drove slowly. And then faster and faster as I saw, yes, this works. Yes, I can do this carefully. And then you really, with time, get in true confidence. And then sometimes you could hold your ground because you just know that is the thing to do. And there could be a lot of headwind to that. But you've done your work and you're like, no, this is the way. And you hold it there. You become that mountain. But you do that with confidence and clarity and a sense of being sure that grows with time. When we release in our sleep, we open our hearts to a devotion to God. In trust, the names are holy. They're the names of God. They're very, very ultimately, completely trustworthy. So you have to be careful when you do this practice. People do it to other names of other things. It's not God. Is it trustworthy? What frequencies are you opening yourself to, which could cause serious problems? Depending, correct? But this, you have confidence. They're the names of God. They're the names that are in the Old Testament. They're not made up by man. They're the names in the Old Testament that are linked to God, the names that God called himself. The names are carefully chosen that they're linked directly to the Old Testament. Right? And if you believe in the New Testament, then ultimately, if you feel comfortable, you could use a name from the New Testament. But that might also be an Emmanuel, which is linked in the Old Testament. I want this to be inclusive. Connect with God. The God that comes from everything. For me, that is Yahweh, Hashem, Adonai, Abba, Elohim, El, Elohim. El Elyon is also another name. I'm not sure if that's on the list. I'll need to check. There's so many beautiful names. Hashem. That's not in the Old Testament, but it's used to refer to the names of the Old Testament, and Adonai as well. So we fall asleep connecting to the Wi-Fi and we let go. And we do it night after night after night after night. And believe me, things will start changing, and it could take a while. When I first was doing these practices, it was over several months before I felt any stability. And there was a period that I did it that I didn't feel anything for quite a while. And then I stopped it. And then I went back. And then I stopped the practice for a while, and then I go back. And then I really started doing it, not even mindfully. I just started doing the practice. And then a couple of weeks later, I'm like, whoa, I'm doing this practice. Oh my God, this is something I could teach my students. And now I do it every night. And it's linked back up very quickly. Because I've been doing the practices of the prayers and being mindful during the day. And reciting the names during the day. So I have a certain fluency, a certain ability. So when I apply it to something different, it's all there. And it's there when I say it during the day. It's there when I think to say it a couple times in the middle of the grocery store, just to realign, to reconnect, to connect to that presence. And then one day, one just magically pops in, and one remains in that presence. And then one begins to experience the gloriousness, and it is glorious, of living that through your whole day. And you feel you're home, and you're like, oh my God, I've been living from a different place all along. How is that even possible? Boy, was it draining. And then we encounter great health and greater abilities and greater healing. Why? Because all that energetic waste that was devoted to afflictive emotions, anger, jealousy, resentment, desire, all those things, is reclaimed. All that energy, life force, chi, now is able to stay in our battery and is just available to live in that presence, and then is available for our body to heal, for our minds to stay calm, for our minds' storms of thoughts to get healed in deeper and deeper levels. And we forget it. We forget the trauma. It disappears. And then we realize we don't need to go digging for it. It just lifts. This is upper level. Be careful. I'm hinting to something of attainment here, okay? And it's nothing to grasp for. That will create a block. And grasping is an energetic block that will actually keep you from popping in. As one moves along, it's more and more subtle, and one has to be more and more open. And like I said, you drop in, you pop in. You don't walk in. You walk towards it, but at some point, you just fall into it. So there can't be a grasping. And by living in presence, there is no more, how to put it, past or future. So any traumas or sadness or everything disappears. Because the storms of the mind that brought you there, or the worries of the future, don't exist in the present, and therefore it's like they don't exist, because really they don't exist. They're either projection of the mind or living in the past. This is a high level. It's where we're heading towards. So I want to make that very clear. And then we live in that presence of Yahweh. We've seen these people in temples or churches. We've bumped into people like this. Sometimes we see them as high-level teachers. You feel the devotion. You just see the alignment. You see their glow. You see their happiness. And it's real. It's not induced by drugs or over medication. You just see it that, wow, that person loves God. That person's living in the Shekinah glory of God. And there's a lot of love there. They're very happy. And somehow they've popped in. And one thing you see in common, they're very, very, very devout. The path of devotion. There is great devotion in falling asleep with God's name at your lips, in your mind, and you release into it. And honestly, sometimes it used to take me a while to get to sleep. When I do this practice, I am out within 25 seconds. And with time, you see what presents itself. At the beginning, it'll be like normal dreams, and you keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And it's a prayer. At the end of the day, in my hands, God, I place you. And I place myself. And I place you in my life. And throughout history, in spiritual traditions, sleep is considered to be that place between life and death, an intermediate space. We're not conscious, and we're not dead. We're really an energy, an in-between. And in the traditions of the East and Western traditions, it is the most powerful place, the most powerful place to do spiritual religious practice. Because the energy is not heavy there. And we can engender the most change. Because we're in deeper parts of ourselves, and it fills all parts of ourselves. And really, there isn't a lot of force to push back, to resist the change of the frequency of Yahweh. It is one of the quickest paths to spiritual attainment. This is dream yoga, using an Eastern term, but they do it somewhat differently depending on the school. We use the name of Yahweh. It can lead to lucid dreaming. You're awake in your dreams. Yes, that's possible. Yes, it does happen. If you don't believe it, just keep your mind open. Very, very profound and extremely beautiful experiences. But you grow into it, and it happens eventually. It could take a while. You have to retrain your mind to be not lost in the dreams. And with time, it just will naturally happen as your mind sort of resets itself. So that's a higher level of this practice. And there are techniques after one learns this step, which I'm teaching now, to help that come about a little more. And I'm not going to teach that right now, but it's sort of a refinement to what I'm saying when one is ready. But ultimately, one would discover that refinement on their own as they do this practice. You know, I feel like I could kind of say it because I don't think it'll cause problems to people who are starting. One learns with time, because if you do it too soon, it will keep you awake, to remain in presence with the name you're saying as you fall asleep. Yes, it is possible. And by saying in presence with the name and the frequency, one enters into the sleep state while mindfully saying the name and the frequency. And one remains conscious in saying it while one is asleep. Yes, that is possible. But do you see how subtle it is? So if you grasp for it or you desire it, no. Desire is a heavy emotion. But if you make the decision to try to do that with an open, soft touch, so you do it with the intent of remaining on the name as you cross that barrier into the sleep state, and remain mindfulness of the energy and trying to ride that current as you go asleep. Eventually, sort of magically, one day, you will realize that you're actually asleep, but you're lucid in your sleep. And then you can it's just I'm not sure how much further to go with the description of what you can connect energetically, and then you see what happens. Ask questions and see what happens. Wish to know God deeper and see what happens. You're very open. You could also have dreams, normal dreams, but as opposed to the dream carrying its way with you, you could actually be present in how you act in the dream. Again, I'm considering how much further to go. But even if you're in a normal dream, you might notice something that's an opening to go deeper. To drop that dream because you see something spiritual that presents itself, and you turn your attention to that, and then you enter a spiritual connection in that dream, and then the whole dream that you're having falls away. Because in the presence of a dream that's lucid, you're actually maintaining that dream by going with the dream. But as one gets different state of lucidness, you can intend to just drop the dream and direct it consciously to something else. Yes, this is possible. Again, I'm considering how much further to go. I like giving complete teachings. So people realize this is the path. So you start where you start. You go where you go at the time that you are. That's why it's important to save these teachings, because as you move forward, you're going to want to go back and say, what did he say about this next step? So, to give an example, I like giving examples. This is what I was hesitating to say. I've had lucid dreams, all sorts, where I'm walking down the street and I'm just lost in the dream. Once I was on the sidewalk, just, walking down the sidewalk, that was my dream, I was mindful. Lo and behold, my master walks by. Yes, that is possible. If one's mindful, you just keep walking, and one's not able to stop. But I noticed, and I'm like, Master. He stopped, I stopped, and we had a real conversation. Yes, that is possible. And I asked, wow, you're in my dream. And he says, I'm in most of my students' dream every night. They just don't notice me. And I wait for those who notice me. And then I asked my questions. And I got very valid, grounded answers. And since I'm highly studied, they lined up with the books. But they were answers that were beyond what I was able to find in books. But since they were aligned with it, they were completely trustworthy. It's a different way of seeing that I was able to see. And then things in books made much more sense. It was the next step. So that's how you grow in confidence. It's not a leap into blindness and crazy. It's with sanity and sense. And after you wake up, you use your mind. Was that my subconscious? Was it whacked out? Is that out there? Am I not clean enough? Right? I'm very conservative. And as you go through that, you're like, no, there's really something there. And you pray on it, and then you're like, you know what, that was really there. Or that was a question I always had. It feels just so right, that answer. And you grow in the confidence. There's so much available there. It's a level to grow in devotion and love. You can have religious experiences there, that just leave you in a whole different way when you wake up, fundamentally realigns you. It's like going to a hot springs. There's the sulfur springs, and then there's ones that's a little more lithium based. That's the two types of hot springs they exist. Either one, when you come out, you feel just so different because of the minerals that are in it. It's deeply healing. It heals your skin, heals your mind, heals your circulation, everything. That's what a sleep practice can do. It's deeply, deeply healing. It uses that normal 6 to 8 to 10 hours of sleep, which is just sort of lost time if you think about it, but it's not lost because our body needs it, right? But it uses that time for spiritual practice. As one develops the ability, one is able to pray. That 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. period in the day, in the morning, is so powerful for spiritual practice when you're sleeping. You could have the deepest prayers when you're lucid, like the prayers you would have during the day. Just sow in your prayers, and it naturally pops in. Especially somewhere around like 3:15, 3:30 in the morning to about 5 in the morning. It's a very deep sleep, and you could learn to really, really connect with God. Very heart to heart. We can pray to connect using normal words, a little bit like the prayer I said that was sung at the beginning, or normal prayers, God, I wish to connect with you. That's so important, all of that. But the connection is very much in the silence, in front of the incense and the candle, saying the names of God a little bit, and then resting in that energy that's produced. The dream practice, saying the name, and resting in the energy and the lucidness that is produced. Saying a name is very lucid. It's very awake, it's very alive, it's connected, it's eternal. So naturally we continue with time in those energies as we are, quote unquote, asleep. But we can be awake in our sleep. That is really known as the quickest path, to be honest. Many people here really wish to develop a connection that they haven't had in their lives. And it's really a connection of frequency. Switching our energetic frequency, our hearts, away from the desires of our egos, of ourselves, what I wish, what I want, my problems, my issues, all of that, to God. And we do that through spending time in prayer, reading the Bible, the Tanakh, attending services, finding religious music online that speaks to us, that help us feel devotion to God, and we bathe ourselves in it. We step back from our normal music we listen to, and we turn to healing music that feeds our faith. We learn to bathe ourselves in the spiritual waters of God. My teachings help. They point a way, God willing. And listening to them help. But once you gain confidence that they will be helpful and they're sane and they're good, you have to put them into effect, because my words alone will not have you adjust your frequency to the Wi-Fi. You sort of have to get on that dial and work to shifting your energetic alignment to a divine frequency. And that's done through what I call practice. So let's quickly do it together. And then what I will do is I will just kind of eventually just sign off. And I won't sign off. I'll just go quiet and the program will end for this week. But I ask you to continue it a little while longer. And if you fall asleep, if you have the time to do so, then that's great. That could be very healing. If you have things to do, you need to relax and not be worried you'll sleep through it. So right now, set an alarm to when you might have to stop or wake up by. So even if you don't fall asleep, you'll lose touch with time. And as opposed to being worried, time will slip by and you'll miss when you have to stop, or you'll occasionally look at your watch, which what most people would do to make sure what time it is. You can set your alarm and you make sure it's, volume is on. So you could relax in the practice. This is good when you pray. You could have the watch next to you, which you glance out once in a while, or you just set a timer for the time that you need, which is what I do when I have a set time. And then I just trust the timer to go off. And I just focus on the space and wait for the timer. So right now, if you have a certain time, set your alarm. So you could just be in the practice and not worry and lose the sense of time. And if you feel anxious or how long it is, just let go of that thought and go back into the energy. We are relaxing into divine energy. We dissolve down through our bodies into the frequency. But it's really from within us. So our frequency subsides, and at the very center of our cells is divinity. So we're really kind of letting go of everything that's sort of on top to the divine light that lives within us, in our hearts, at every cell in our body, every mineral in our body, the core of our blood. There's a divine presence and spark of life, for capital L. It's eternal. Without it, there would be no life. And so we're relaxing, and as we feel, we go deeper and heavier into it, into our bodies. We're able to resonate with that frequency. And it's God at the base, at the core of it all. So if people would like to lie down, the timer or the alarm is set. It's a quiet space. You've drunk a little bit of water. You've gone to the bathroom if you need to go. If you're in a chair because you can't lie down, that's fine. Make sure you're comfortable. You could put your back against the back of the chair if that's more comfortable to let go. You could recline the chair. You can put your foot up on the table. Whatever is comfortable. Just don't fall off. If there's wheels, don't fly backwards. You have to be safe, right? Don't let go and then boom, right? You want to be comfortable and you let go. If you're a little cold because you're in a colder climate, then you put a blanket over you, pillow under the head if you need it. If you have a shrine, you should do it in front of your shrine if you can, if you have it set up that way, or in the future, set it up that way. I sometimes used to sleep in front of my prayer space with the candle lit carefully so I don't set fire to the whole apartment. But it created that presence which glowed over me and held me as I slept, as I tried to align. So, a couple more seconds there as hopefully people have settled in. So your hands are where you would like to be. If people who want to sleep, you should be in your sleep position. So you could be in your bed. People who have a set time, probably best is on your back. If you're in your sleep position, you may sleep, but then maybe you want to sleep until the alarm goes off. But for others who want to not fall asleep, it's best on your back, and maybe your hands cupped around your navel in your midsection. But your legs are outstretched, back aligned, neck not propped up, the head not propped up too much so you create an energetic nick in the neck area. And you just relax. So everybody just sort of relax. Some deep breaths and just let go of everything. Glasses off if you're wearing glasses. Comfortable shirts. Nothing should be squeezing the throat area. So if you have buttons, take off the top couple buttons. When you practice, nothing should be constricting the throat area. If it's a shirt, that's normal. Just pull it down a little bit so there's plenty of room around the neck area. And just let go. Just relax, let go. We place a light awareness, a light anchor on how our bodies feel. So our mind's anchor to help end our thoughts and thinking, and how our body feels. It's a somatic meditation. I'll speak about that more in the future. So the anchor, how our body feels, and so we feel what feels in our body. And anything that feels tense, we just relax and let go. And we can do that with our breath. So ever and ever deeper levels of relaxation. Now, we start saying the name of God we're working with, the one that makes us feel held and whole, that warm blanket, feel secure. We Just softly say the name. And we just keep repeating it, or with little pauses. And it's just very light. It's not to energize us. If we start feeling energized, then we say it less often and slower. So we'll do a little together, and then I'll just end the recording at some point, but you continue. And if your mind wanders, you just bring it back to the name when you notice it. It's light touch, no judgment, and we learn to work with this, get accustomed to it. Relax, let go.